British Airways Flight 149 was a flight from London Heathrow Airport to Sultan Abdul Aziz Shah Airport, via Kuwait City and Madras, operated by British Airways with a Boeing 747-136. The flight never travelled on after stopping at Kuwait International Airport, near Kuwait City, several hours after the Iraqi invasion of Kuwait during the early hours of 2 August 1990. The aircraft operating the flight, its passengers and crew were captured by Iraqi forces, and many of the passengers and crew were initially detained and later became part of Saddam Hussein's human shields. The passengers were later freed, though at least one died during captivity. The aircraft itself was destroyed at the airport in 1991. Background: at 18:05 GMT on 1 August 1990, British Airways Flight 149 departed from London Heathrow Airport. Its route to Kuala Lumpur took the flight via Kuwait City and Madras. The flight had been delayed several hours due to a fault in the aircraft's auxiliary power unit. The flight had a scheduled stopover at Kuwait City. However, this was not cancelled or changed despite media reports of the worsening political situation in the region. Kuwait's larger neighbor, Iraq, had issued demands for territory to be surrendered to its control and had been staging a military build-up on the border between the two nations for weeks. On 1 August 1990, the same day as BA-149's flight, Iraq launched a military invasion of Kuwait. At 1:13 GMT on 2 August 1990, BA-149 landed at Kuwait International Airport and the passengers were disembarked for what should have been an hour wait. The airport was deserted, with little to no staff on the ground, and several flights by other airlines had been cancelled at this point. There were reports that, prior to BA-149's landing, British military personnel had taken control of Kuwait Airport's control tower. In September 1990, Prime Minister Margaret Thatcher stated that BA-149 had landed at Kuwait hours prior to the invasion. However, passengers on board BA-149 reportedly heard gunfire and tank activity during the landing at Kuwait City. At 2:05 the passengers began boarding the Boeing 747 for the next leg to Madras. At 2:20 GMT, Iraqi fighter bombers reportedly bombed the airport's runway. At 4:30 GMT, both the crew and passengers on board BA-149 were transported by bus to the airport's on-site hotel. On 3 August 1990, it was reported that all of the 367 passengers and 18 crew members from BA-149 were safe and well. The empty aircraft itself was subsequently destroyed on the ground by an aircraft attack during the latter stages of the conflict. The destruction may have been an intentional act of the U.S. military. Alternatively, the aircraft may have been destroyed by Iraqi ground forces during the withdrawal from Kuwait. Detention of passengers. Most passengers were initially transferred to the airport hotel within the boundaries of the airport. Later on, passengers were confined to various hotels in Kuwait, also designated by the Iraqis for other foreigners to report to. The Iraqis claimed the passengers to be honored guests, and were moved in the following week under armed escort by a mix of policemen and soldiers from Iraq to locations in Kuwait and Iraq. The British transferees were accommodated primarily on the upper floors of the Melia Mansour Hotel. Hostages from other nationalities were housed in different hotels, according to statements made by some of the ex-hostages. Multiple passengers had witnessed atrocities such as attacks upon Kuwaiti citizens by Iraqi forces. Some hostages had been themselves subjected to mental and physical abuse, including instances of mock executions and rape. After 10 days, the detainees were dispersed to various military-industrial sites. Women and children were given the opportunity to return home in late August, whereas those who remained were used as human shields and transferred between sites. Sites would contain between 8 and 20 detainees of mixed nationalities, typically British and American citizens, as well as French, German, Japanese and others. Different national groups, including invalids and the bodies of individuals who died in captivity, were released at various stages. Former British Prime Minister Edward Heath travelled in person to Baghdad for direct talks with Iraq's President Saddam Hussein, and is credited with leading negotiations to successfully release the hostages taken. The last of the remaining US and UK hostages were released in mid-December 1990. Investigation. Several court actions were raised by passengers against British Airways for negligence in landing at Kuwait after the Iraqi invasion, and for loss of property. On 15 July 1999, French passengers won damages from British Airways to the amount of £2.5 million. On October 2006, a group of passengers called for an independent public inquiry. A 2007 documentary, commissioned and shown by the BBC and shown elsewhere by Discovery Channel, claimed that the US and UK governments were aware almost as soon as Iraqi armed forces crossed the border and by 03:00 Kuwaiti time were fully informed that an invasion had taken place and fighting had ensued. This awareness would have been at least an hour before BA 149 touched down, during which several other flights had diverted to Bahrain or other alternative destinations to avoid a potential situation. In October 1992, Prime Minister John Major, who had taken over from Margaret Thatcher, denied any attempt to influence British Airways in regards to the decision to operate BA 149. However, this is contradicted by sworn statements that British Airways had in fact been briefed by MI6 and informed that it had been safe to fly. On the 2nd of October 1992, in response to a question on the issue, Major said, "I can confirm, however, that there were no British military personnel on board the flight." However, the 2007 documentary included an interview with an anonymous former Shah soldier, who claimed that he and his team had been on Flight 149 for the purposes of intelligence gathering in Kuwait. Several soldiers also confirmed to a parliamentary investigation that they had participated in such a mission, and that this mission had been at the request of the British government and authorized directly by the Prime Minister.